Hey there, I'm Julia, and for the past 11 years, I have been working on myself. Today, I want to challenge myself by recording a video of me talking without any script, as I wanted to sharpen my critical thinking and also practice public speaking. I'm not saying that I'm already good, but here I am trying to just be good at it. Now, I wanted to share something with you before I proceed with my first topic here, which is nothing works the first time around. You have to know that I was not an achiever back then. So in primary school, in high school, I didn't receive any high honors or awards. I was always the most behaved student. I was always the quiet one, the shy one. And I think at one point in time, my parents thought that I'll always be that person, you know? But in college, I had a different mindset. I told myself I could be a different person if I put my heart and mind to it. And I was very convinced that I had changed my environment. I went to a school where no one knows me because if there's a person that was, let's say, familiar to me, I get very shy when I do different things in front of them. It was out of character. So the environment that I had then really worked because no one knew me in that university. And then the other thing was my reference group. So I changed the people that I hang out with. Well, actually, I didn't really change it because I didn't have any choice as well. I didn't know anyone. I wasn't familiar with anybody. So I had to make friends. But I just made sure that I made friends with people who have ambitions as well. And I joined organizations and all that. So in college, I wrote down on my notebook, I was trying to set a goal bigger than myself. So I said, I wanted to graduate as cum laude. Or I think I wrote, I wanted to graduate as magna cum laude so that if I don't reach that, I would land cum laude still. So I knew I had to be a completely different person in order to achieve that because I was not an achiever prior college. So I did everything I could and I ended up graduating magna cum laude. After that, I also, oh, by the way, I've also won a few awards. And I'm not saying this because I wanted to just tell you that awards matter or titles matter. They really don't. But I need to give you a reason to keep listening to me because I need to prove that I was able to execute the things I'm about to share with you, if that makes sense. Okay. So after that, I started working and I was the youngest manager in that tech company. And then pandemic happened and we were surrounded by uncertainty. I have quit my job at 22 years old. I told myself I was a complete failure. Why would I resign? I was already a manager and it would look awful on my resume or CV. But now that doesn't seem to be the case anymore. I've seen a lot of people leaving their company based on vibes, or sometimes it's just really not a match, right? So after that, I started my own business at 22 years old and I was featured on Good Morning Texas. It's on ABC News. After it was published, I started receiving messages from people in the US. So, what happened next? After that, I started working with several companies in the US, Australia, UK, UAE, and also Hong Kong, Canada. I'm not sure if I've already mentioned that, but I've worked with so many businesses, around 70 businesses, I think. And my belief then was when you're in your 20s, you need to maximize yourself. You need to learn a lot. You need to treat yourself as a sponge because there will be a time where you will need to slow down. But in the early 20s, like 20 to 25 or maybe 20 to 27, when you still have the energy, when you still have your health, when you still have a lot of time, this is the perfect moment to work on something really, really hard so that your 30s could also thank you for it, right? Your future self would really thank you for it. So that's what I'm doing. And then recently I have joined a startup competition and was able to win 1 million pesos. equity free grant. And in USD, that's around $17,000. I know it's not that much, but then again, it's quite a journey, I would say. So our main topic for today is nothing works the first time around. So most people give up before they try. They have a long list as to why things won't work out. So imagine, let's say you have a friend and your friend tells you, I'm going to quit my job or I'm going to start a business. And your default reply or response to them is, you're going to be so good at that. I believe in you. I support you. You're the perfect person to do that. You're so affirmative. You're showering them with words of affirmation and words of affection. But when it comes to you, you're depriving yourself of those positive words. And it is important to be your own cheerleader because the words that we tell ourselves, let's say there are two folders, right? A folder that's called proof that I can, and then proof that I cannot or I can't. So once you start collecting files in that folder called proof that I can't, and you start compiling everything, that will ultimately become your truth. So you have to be very careful about what you're saving because whatever you document or whatever you save as an evidence will ultimately become your truth. And that will be your perspective about yourself. So that is a very important thing that you have to bear in mind. So we'll talk about the myth of getting things right and also why failure is not really a failure and what feedback actually means. And there's this persistence gap and also the action gap. So I have an outline here. But again, I'm not reading any script. So we were taught that if something is meant for us, things should be easy, it should be flawless, it should be smooth. If you're talented enough, you should immediately get it the first time that you attempt. But that is not the case most of the time. 99% of the time, when you try something, you're going to suck, you're going to fail. And that is why everyone was once a beginner. Let's say, try to list down the people that you admire and try to list down the qualities that you admire from them, all the skills that they have. One thing that you will learn if you do that exercise is that you will learn that everything is learnable. You can also learn those things. That person is also a human being like you. So what is the difference? The only difference is that they started early and they have spent tons and tons of hours mastering their craft. They're very hyper focused on that. They're trying to eliminate distractions and they're just focused on one thing because they want to get it right. They want to be good at it. But that doesn't mean that you cannot be good at that. Make sense? So you might be looking at people who are on their chapter 35 and you're only on your chapter 1, right? So it would be unfair, and I don't know why my neck is hurting. It would be unfair and invalid if you try to compare yourself against those people. You have to extend some grace to yourself. You have to be patient. When I told you that I was able to, let's say, graduate as magna cum laude, it didn't take me one day or overnight. Well, I finished early because we were adapting a trimestral scheme, but so I finished in 3 years, but it took me 3 years before I achieved that. And if you start, let's say, going to the gym, when you go home and look at yourself in the mirror, you're gonna realize that your weight didn't change at all, your body fat percentage, your muscle mass won't change a bit. And that's because it's just your first time. So there will be no, let's say, big jump or change the first time that you try things out. You have to remember that you're gonna suck and that your first try is supposed to be bad. That's the truth. And if, let's say, you're working on something right now, your first launch is going to suck. So instead of waiting for the perfect time, try to launch every single day. If you have an idea, if you're a graphic designer, you want to publish, let's say, a very big campaign or design, I suggest that you keep publishing every single day because volume works. You're not even sure what would resonate with people. I'm not telling you that you need to be so competitive that you're treating everybody as a a competitor or you're treating things like a competition, but sometimes you have to trick your mind. And lastly, you have to remember that there's no such thing as failure. Everything is part of the process. And if anybody will give you feedback or criticism, you have to realize that you're not a failure just because you receive that feedback, whether it's good or bad, okay? Every information that you acquire is a redirection because now you know what doesn't work. Now you have more information as to what works. And if you attempted doing something and you feel like you failed, that is just information for your next try or next attempt. If you start thinking that failure is just simply the opportunity to begin again, but this time more intelligently and more strategically, then you would be excited every time you flop or things didn't go your way. By the way, that quote is from Henry Ford. He said that failure is just the opportunity to begin again. Now, the real difference between the person that you admire and yourself is that they're expecting that every time that they try something new, they will fail the first time around. And they also have a higher tolerance for things not working or not happening their way. So they're very adaptable as well. And they keep going even most people would decide to quit when they experience the dip. Now there are three things that I wanted you to try. Number one is try to do something with zero expectation of it working or not. And number two is start that project, try to do it every single day, publish it, and make sure to remember that it's all about volume. The more you spend time and hours on something, you're eventually gonna get good at it. It's just a matter of time and also perseverance. And your job here isn't to get things right. Your only job here is to start. Just begin. Just start before you're ready.